The desert of Karbala holds more than just dust and blood. It holds the echoes of the greatest sacrifice in Islamic history. A man stood not for power, not for wealth, but for truth. Imam Hussain, R.A., the beloved grandson of Prophet Muhammad, chose to face death rather than surrender to tyranny. Surrounded, starved, and outnumbered, he and his 72 companions wrote a chapter of courage that still shakes hearts 1400 years later. But what really happened at Karbala? Why did Imam Hussain refuse to give allegiance to Yazid? What was the purpose behind this sacrifice? Asterisk, this video is not about sectarian views, it's about historical truth. It's about honor, resistance, and the legacy of Karbala that lives in every heart seeking justice. Asterisk, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep this message alive for the world. Asterisk, the death of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, R.A., marked the end of an era and the beginning of a political crisis that would test the soul of the Muslim Ummah. Upon his death, his son Yazid was appointed as caliph, a move that deeply troubled many, especially Imam Hussain ibn Ali, R.A. Yazid was known not for his righteousness, but for his un-Islamic conduct, indulgence in luxuries, and disregard for the values the Prophet had taught. Asterisk, Imam Hussain, R.A., the grandson of Rasulullah, was not a man of rebellion, but of principle. He could not, in good conscience, pledge allegiance to a ruler who openly violated the laws of Islam. This was not about politics. It was about truth and integrity. He famously said, asterisk, greater than a person like me cannot give allegiance to a person like Yazid. Asterisk, as pressure increased in Medina, Hussain, R.A., began receiving letters from the people of Kufa, inviting him to come and lead them. They promised support and loyalty. Encouraged by their words and driven by duty, Imam Hussain sent his cousin Muslim ibn Aqil to Kufa to assess the situation. Initially, Muslim received overwhelming support, with thousands pledging loyalty. But this loyalty was shallow and fleeting. When Yazid's governor Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad arrived in Kufa with threats and bribes, fear spread. Muslim was betrayed, captured, and executed brutally, and Imam Hussain was unaware of this when he set out on the path toward Kufa. Asterisk, he did not travel with an army, but with his family and closest companions, including women and children. His goal was never war. It was to respond to the call of a people who had begged for his leadership. But as he neared Karbala, the news of Muslim's death reached him. Still, he pressed forward, knowing his decision would either restore the honor of Islam or expose the corruption that had taken root. Asterisk, on the 2nd of Muharram, 61 Imam Hussain, R.A. arrived at Karbala, a dry land by the banks of the Euphrates River. There, he was surrounded by Yazid's army, tens of thousands strong, led by Umar ibn Sa'd. The siege had begun. Asterisk, negotiations were attempted. Hussain offered to return to Medina or to go to the border and defend Islam. But Yazid wanted only one thing: total submission. Hussain refused, not because he sought war, but because truth cannot bow to falsehood. When asked why he would not give bay'ah, he replied, asterisk, greater than I did not rise to spread evil or injustice. I rose to reform the Ummah of my grandfather. Asterisk, thus began the darkest chapter of Islamic history, where the most blessed of blood was about to be spilled. The Ummah was watching. The angels were watching. And the test of Karbala was unfolding, not in the name of power, but in the name of truth. Stay with us for Chapter 2, the day when the desert of Karbala turned red. If this story moves your heart, please like, subscribe, and share so that the truth of Karbala never dies. Asterisk, the sun rose on the 10th of Muharram, 61 a day forever etched in Islamic history as Ashura. The land of Karbala was silent, yet heavy with anticipation. Surrounded by thousands, Imam Hussain, R.A., stood with only 72 brave souls, including his family members and loyal companions. The night before, he had given them permission to leave to save their lives. But not a single one deserted him. That night, he turned to his followers and said, "Greater than I know no companions more loyal and true than mine, nor any family more righteous and devoted." With morning light, the siege turned to slaughter. The enemy cut off access to water days before. Even the cries of Ali Asghar, Hussein's 6-month-old son, could not move their hearts. When Hussein raised the baby to plead for water, a heartless arrow from Harmala struck the child's neck, killing him in his father's arms. The tragedy unfolded not all at once, but in waves. The brave Abbas ibn Ali, R.A., the standard-bearer and brother of Hussein, went to fetch water for the children. He broke through enemy lines, reached the river, and filled the water skin. But as he returned, both his arms were severed, and he was struck fatally. Even in death, Abbas never drank a drop. His loyalty earned him the eternal title, Bab al-Hawai, the door of needs. One by one, Hussein's sons, nephews, and companions fell. Ali Akbar, R.A., his eldest son, fought with the spirit of his grandfather, the Prophet. When he was martyred, Hussein cried out, "Greater than, O Allah, bear witness. A youth has gone to his death whose face and character resembled your Prophet most." By midday, only Imam Hussain remained. His body was wounded, thirsty, and exhausted, yet his spirit unshaken. He stood with his sword, defending the truth with all that remained. As he gave his final sermon, he looked upon the enemy and said, "If you do not believe in any religion and do not fear the day of judgment, at least be free in your world." Then came the final moment. He was surrounded, struck from all sides, and finally fell. His head was severed by Shimr ibn Diljashan, and the enemy raised it on a spear. The body of the grandson of the Prophet was trampled by horses. His clothes were looted. His camp was raided. The women, including Sayyida Zainab, R.A., were taken captive. The tragedy was total, yet so was the victory, because Karbala was never about numbers. It was about principles. Imam Hussain, R.A., did not die in defeat. He died in eternal honor. He exposed the face of tyranny, shook the conscience of generations, and reignited the moral flame of Islam. His blood watered the tree of justice, and his sacrifice became a beacon for every soul seeking righteousness. The captives were taken to Kufa and then Damascus. But even in captivity, Zainab bint Ali, R.A., carried the message of Karbala forward with unshakable courage. Her speech in Yazid's court silenced the oppressors and reminded the world that Karbala was not the end, it was the beginning. Today, whether you are Sunni or Shia, the message of Karbala belongs to all. It is not a sectarian tale. It is the core of Islam, the reminder that when falsehood dominates, silence is betrayal. Imam Hussain, R.A., stood not just for his time, but for all time. And his voice still echoes in every heart. Greater than death with dignity is better than life in humiliation. That is the reality of Karbala. If this story touched your soul, please like, share, and subscribe so the legacy of Hussein lives on in every generation.